Okay, everyone, I'm back from my morning drive, and I just wanted to say, what was the point of showing all that stuff? Well, the point is that, I wanted to show how they run surveillance when you're driving. Vehicular surveillance, vehicular harassment to involve you in an accident the same way that they involve you in the street theater when you're in a store. It's the same thing. And so what they'll typically do is, if you noticed in my last video, where they'll get a red car in front of me or behind me. Now, if it's in front of me, they use the red car to control the speed and rate at which I'm traveling. And usually, typically what they'll do is they'll slow me down. Then after a while of me being slowed down by the car in front of me, they will then begin the floating box surveillance, where you're cornered in by three red cars in a triangle around your car so that you can't, you speed up, they speed up. You slow down, they slow down. You try to turn on your signal, they won't let you over. This is what I mean, and Brian too says this as well about the hyper game theory. It's so key to understand that the game that they play, you can't escape from. It doesn't matter how much you want to try to avoid the direct confrontation that is brought about by their sabotage. You can't escape it. So it's just the way it is. It's the way they have designed the program, and through the gaslighting, the constant gaslighting, and then through, first the sabotage of putting you in a fix where, right in plain view of everybody else, your movement's being restricted. And we're talking about situations that happen again and again and again and again, over and over and over in a repeated fashion, every day, all day, everywhere the target goes. We're not talking about a one-time incident of somebody pulling in front of you and going slow, okay? That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about that sun is so bright. We're talking about using this as a tactic of control and manipulation to stop the flow of traffic of someone that's a targeted individual, to block and hinder and restrict their movements, which makes it easier for them to do their surveillance. It makes it easier for them when there isn't anything random and chaotic that the target does. That makes you a hard target. When you're random, number one, and when you're basically just chaotic for them, because being random and suddenly taking a right when your mind is thinking I'm going left is what I'm talking about. That has the potential to confound some of their technology. You know what I mean? When you get going multiple streams of thought, when you're multitasking, just like Brian too says, I found more relief doing that, especially when I'm driving, listening to random music I don't even listen to or like, really, just in the background to annoy them. You know what I mean? That's basically why I do it. I choose songs. Everything is with meaning. Everything is a message to them, in the same way that they want to silently, do directed speech based on surveillance, based on the information they gather, and then basically terrorize you everywhere you go with that information, twisting it, fabricating on top of the information that they gain in the metadata that they gain on you. But this is not because you've done something wrong or done something illegal. This is a new form of policing, a new form of radicalizing society through torture. And they give themselves the excuse to torture under the terrorism laws, under the Patriot Act, under the executive orders, under the rendition programs, under the legalization of torture, under the evisceration of the Bill of Rights and posse comitatus, the total militarization of our local police departments, trickling down into the community. This is what they do in banana republics. This is what they do in communist countries. Yeah, we're free, right? We're free. Yet millions of Americans are coming to you talking about tactics that are only used in communist type countries and dictatorships. And, you know, that's what the Emergency Wartime Powers Act does for the presidency. It turns that office into an executive branch where the executive just rules everything. That's what the executive orders are. And I was saying, guys, I was saying years ago, just the simple fact that you think they're going to make these laws and then not use them. You know what I mean? It's like, if they make the law, they're going to use it. You know what I mean? If they make the law, they're going to use the law eventually, even if it's just on the books sitting there. Okay? So I just wanted to let you know that, you know, one of the ways they can control the flow of traffic is by putting a red and white car in front of you. For me, I'm sensitized to the red and white cars. So they put the red and white cars in front of me to go slow, block me in, and then they'll put 2 cars on each side of me or behind me. Usually it's on both sides of me and behind me so I can't get away. And then they swerve at you. Or what they'll do is they'll have 3 cars that are white go past you. And then the last car in the row will swerve at you, because while it's a game of misdirection and deception, while you're looking at those white cars that you've been sensitized to, you don't see the last car coming, you know, in your lane swerving at you. You know what I mean? So they get you locked on these red and white cars, or whatever color it may be. Color sensitizing is key in this targeting, because if they couldn't sensitize you, you wouldn't react. If there was nothing to traumatize, you wouldn't respond, and everything would be pointless. So, but they use trauma to gain this. For the technology side, they use trauma to map out your brain and the synaptic responses of the brain through a bidirectional stream of energy, a stream of photons, a stream of light, a stream of photons, a synthetic stream of energy, an EMF carrier wave. Okay, you can look up all I'm talking about. Okay, this has been used as a weapon. It's why they're spraying the sky. They're turning the sky into a battery so their frequencies can, you know, be stronger, you know, under this, you know, space fence. I mean, just with, you know, the Reagan era, you know, all the space stuff that was going on back then, you know, the Star Wars program, it was all regarding these weapons, these silent weapons, infrasound, ultrasound, all these silent weapons, microwave pulse energy, EMF broadcasts, all of this, okay? Tesla type technology, okay? We're not conspiracy theorists because we read about Tesla and know about Tesla, okay? It's just like ridiculous, you know, so you're going to have to try harder. But, you know, so when you're driving on the road, guys, you'll notice your flow of traffic, like the speed and rate at which you're wanting to proceed, will always be interfered with, because, and this is so easily deniable. I mean, who doesn't sit in traffic? Who doesn't face issues in traffic? Every city in the country. But what we're saying is that in an organized way, because of the probable deniability behind this, what we're saying as targeted individuals, they have so much probable deniability, blaming it on the common and the ordinary occurrences, that they can get away with it. If anybody decides to start controlling through rate and frequency, it's not that they even have to interact with you. They just have to be there at such a rate and frequency that it drives you nuts. Okay, that's the psychic driving, the radicalization. Okay, they're trying to radicalize average citizens, so they'll kill your family members, they'll do whatever, and always with probable deniability, to deny it on the common and the ordinary, and even the expected things. That's why the surveillance part of this program is so serious, because, you know, many people say, well, I'm not doing anything illegal. Why would I worry about, you know, people knowing my information? And I'm telling you why. Is because psychopathic narcissists can get a hold of it and then ruin your life through framing you, through fabricating that information, through knowing where you're going to be, when you're going to be there, and running games on you. And many targeted individuals are talking about this. We've been complaining about it and talking about it. Okay, so this is what's going on. They're bringing the abuse on a targeted individual through the common and ordinary and even expected things to the casual observer, so that when the target complains about it, the casual observer goes, hey man, that's normal everyday things. Like, I see red cars every day. No, but you don't see those red cars every day interacting with you. And you notice in my video, I had a red car in front of me the whole way. Okay. Basically the whole way. They pass you from one team to another. Okay. And you don't get to really see the subtleties of what they're doing, how they're reacting, the rate and speed at which they're controlling my movement. Okay. Not just controlling my movement, but then when they slow me on down, that's when they begin to throw food at my car and do all these things. So, you know what I mean? You couldn't even make this stuff up, guys. You couldn't even make this stuff up. That's what I'm trying to say. I mean, you'd have to be like better than Stephen King for your imagination to be able to make this stuff up. I mean, literally, you know what I mean? There's much better things I'd rather be doing with my time than doing videos because I'm being tortured and harassed in an organized, systematic way as an innocent person. You know what I mean? And that's what I just want to emphasize. No crime. I mean, no matter what these gang stalkers say, they come into your life, they infiltrate your social groups, and they start saying, you're a criminal, you're a rapist, you're a child molester. They try to make the worst things stick in the neighborhood. So they move in the gang stalkers adjacent to you in the neighborhood, spread rumor campaigns. I mean, this is literally, it's that organized. It's a business. It's a business, okay? The majority of this is a business. Half the people that do this too, the majority of people that do this too are just intelligence services that work together with NATO forces, training the civilians through the threat fusion centers in the sheriff's office, training under the, with the MIAC report. You can look it up. Other stuff like this, training that conservatives, gun owners, Christians, conservatives, like I said, are terrorists, okay, just because of their association with a certain belief. Now, that's the level of horror that we're living, a complete and utter, the nations that forget God shall be turned into hell. That's what the Bible says. The nations, you mark these words, the nations that forget God shall be turned into hell. Okay, and we're seeing that. That's what we're seeing. The love of men growing cold. Will I find the faith when I return? A strong delusion, an apostasy in the church. People believing the lies. Going along with the lies, like God says, because they refused to receive the love of the truth and so be saved. God sends them a strong delusion so that they believe a lie. Okay? Because they refuse to receive the love of the truth, and thy word is truth. And they will exchange the truth of God for a lie in the last days, professing themselves to be wise when they're really fools. That's what the Bible says in Romans chapter 1. So we've got all these verses laid out, men's hearts failing them for fear about what's to come upon this world. And, mother against brother, brother against son. Jesus talks about these days like birth pains that are going to come. And notice how it's just coming like a flood, slowly but surely. It's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And believe me, these are bully, psychopathic narcissists that run these programs on innocent people. And believe me, they will not stop. And they've even been busted by Amnesty International in court, with the affidavits that were submitted saying, hey, the NSO group is selling software to local law enforcement in America, and they're using that software to fabricate information against targeted individuals, to frame dissidents, whistleblowers, gun owners. I mean, you know what I mean? You better get with the program and understand who the real enemy is and what they're saying at Homeland Security, who the enemy is. And for years they trained the churches, and I've known about this way longer than most people because I was fighting it with the clergy response teams in the 501c3 nonprofit businesses called churches, corporations called churches only in name, under the heading of the IRS, who controls the content of what those 501c3 churches say. So if you're a 501c3 church, you by law have to submit, because you've signed the fine print, you and didn't read it. You signed the dotted line and didn't read the fine print, and don't understand that the IRS directly controls content under the faith-based initiative, under the laws that have been passed. The IRS becomes the the government, the federal government begins to subsidize these churches federal money, federal subsidy money, and they give these churches this money and they say, hey, we'll build your big play structure, we'll build your big building, but when the chips, are called in, you better, we want a favor, we're not doing this for free. We want you to report on your congregation. Anybody that talks about freedom, anybody that talks about the Constitution, anybody that talks about that vaccines are bad and dangerous for you, anybody that talks, any conspiracy theory. And we want you to have a FEMA pastor and a pastor that is on the payroll of Homeland Security without telling your congregation, by the way, because none of them tell the congregation. Isn't that suspect? But I mean, if it was such a good thing, then why wouldn't they tell the members of their congregation? But no, just the clergy response teams know about it. And literally in Mein Kampf, in Hitler's book, when you read Mein Kampf, he talks about and brags about the clergy response teams being an effective tool in surveilling and being Judas goats, basically. These people just leading neighbors and, reporting people and, bringing people to the death camps. I mean, that's literally what we're dealing with in America. You better wake up. It's disgusting. It's sickening. I'm a free man. You could put chains on me. You can shackle me. You can cut out my tongue. You can cut off my arms. But in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, they were tortured and they refused to receive deliverance that they might gain a better resurrection. And he who loves his life will lose it. And he who hates his life in this world shall keep it unto eternity. Really. I mean, really, that's the attitude that a Christian has to have. If any man come after me, let him deny himself and pick up the cross and follow me. But today, it's just a love of self. It's just self-worship. And we're living by the wrong source as Christians. We say and claim that we have a resurrected life, a life that's been born again, a new life altogether. And yet we live by our old source. We live by our mind, our thought life. We live by our will and our emotion. And we end up going down again and again and again because we don't make the transfer completely to living by another source and to living by the life of the Lord Jesus every day, moment to moment. And it's just with a simple turn. You can turn your heart and your thoughts by saying Jesus. You can turn the whole ship. This little rudder right here can turn the whole ship. Believe me. And so I just want to say, ask anything in my name and I will do it for you. Anything you ask, Jesus says, I will do it. He doesn't say, I will help you do it. He says, I will do it, because he's saying it's no longer I, but Christ that liveth in me. Galatians 2:20. So I just wanted to let you guys know I love you very much. I just wanted to make some comments on those driving videos, just to show the color sensitizing. And just to show the subtleties of how they let you know you're under surveillance, how it's overt, even though they're not directly, forcibly interacting with me at this time. But at the same time, they're letting me know, we're here, we're watching you by buzzing me and doing different things to control the level of speed. You noticed how the whole drive, the chances of having a red car get in front of me and then control my speed and the rate at which I'm going, it's totally, purely impossible mathematically. When this happens every day, everywhere you go, all the time, from the second you leave this parking lot, from the second I leave this parking lot, to have people on me like that. I'm an innocent man. I have not committed a crime. I have not been tried in a court of law. I have not had the ability to answer my accusers. So if you people want to give up all these things in our justice system and give up all these really stop checks, these systems that gridlock a dictatorship from being set up. But you didn't want that when I was telling you years ago about the Patriot Act and the false flag of 9/11 and all the things that happened after 9/11, I'm not going to even rehash it. I just want you to know that, around that time, it's important to understand, because that's when they implemented the Patriot Act. That's when, they really started this war on terror, just like the war on drugs and every other war. It's just a false manufactured war. Both sides are funded by the same people, folks. That's all I'm trying to say. And you know it. Anyways, I love you guys. Talk to you later.